You know, I never really got Superman. Don't get me wrong, I knew he was popular, but I never really understood why people liked him so much, and I think I blame that on one thing: Man of Steel.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
This was the first centric Superman thing I've seen. Now, he was in the iconic Lego Batman 2, but he wasn't the main character of that game, hence the name. And Man of Steel to me was just always just a boring movie. Of course, now that I'm older, I can understand that this is a version of Superman that is very different from what we're used to, but even then, I still don't really like the movie and find it really boring. And then the movie afterwards was Batman vs Superman, which was a film that I was very disappointed by. It was a movie that I was extremely excited to see, yet ended up being one of my biggest disappointments I've ever seen. Hey, is Batman vs Superman really about to be 10 years old? Ah, God, I'm a corpse. I think it was the fact that they kept trying to make Superman feel like a god that made me just never really like him. Like, to me, that was always such a uninteresting way to look at his character, and to be fair, that was never the intention of the character, just Zack Snyder's vision of the character. And I think that's fine for the most part if people like that version. It's just, for me, it made me very cynical towards Superman for years. Of course, as I got older, I did check out some other stuff from Superman, like a couple episodes of the animated series and My Adventures with Superman, which I really enjoyed both of them. But I was waiting for that one Superman project to grab me and shake me around and tell me, Delvin, this is Superman. Do you get it now? But during my teen years, it felt like Superman was kind of going through a massive drought. It felt like Warner Brothers was trying to do anything but make a Superman movie. Think about it, it took us getting a Black Adam movie to see the return of Henry Cavill's Superman, only to never get a follow-up with that. There was just a lot of nothing with this guy outside of Adventures with Superman, which again, I've checked out a couple episodes of and enjoyed, but I haven't really gone back to it yet. Also, I've seen a bit of season 2 and oh my god, Kara can fix me. But that all started to change with James Gunn announcing the DCU. With his experience, they were trying their hardest to make sure that this shit never happens again. And while I love James Gunn and he made some of my favorite comic book movies of all time, I was admittedly pretty skeptical. Don't get me wrong, Gunn is a really good director, and again, he's made some of my favorite movies. But him directing an entire Superman movie was a little you sure? While it was gonna take a bit of convincing, I was admittedly interested and wanted to let him cook. And I remember the day the Superman trailer dropped. I was on my way to do one of my GEDs, saw the trailer finally got posted, watching it, and I was amazed. I know this is a crazy thing to say, but I got it. I don't know how to describe it, but watching the trailer made me think, I understand why people like this character now. So patiently, I waited for this movie. I sat down in my seat, I watched it, and oh my god, I can't believe it. It was pretty good.
Hey Peggy, let me talk to him one time, hold up.
Superman is kind of a mess of a movie. A very good one that does a lot of things right, and I think has a lot of Gunn's best work, but I also feel like he kind of bit more than he can chew with this film. To start with the positives, I think this is one of the coolest looking comic book movies I have ever seen, not counting animated movies. I feel like every shot was just ripped straight out of a comic book. If you pause a certain scene, you can imagine the panels being made out of them. There's also certain shots for certain characters, like how Superman's always being panned out to look very grand and heroic, while Lex always has these close-ups in his face to show how much spite he has. Maybe that's me bugging a bit, maybe that's me looking a little bit too hard into it, but if that was the intention, that was pretty cool. Just in general, I just like how comic booky this movie is. They didn't really feel the need to explain every little thing Superman has. He just has them, deal with it. Why does Krypto the Super Dog exist? Don't question it. I also think the CGI and special effects look great. Every Superman fight scene just looks so good. And it cannot go without saying, but I really love David Cornsweet as Superman. I like how Clark in this film is just kind of struggling with his morality and humanity, constantly trying to do the right thing, trying to protect everyone, but also struggling to keep himself sane because of it. No matter what scene he's in, you can always count on him doing the right thing, and oftentimes he faces the consequences of that. I like how the film very much emphasizes that Clark is just a good guy who believes he needs to use his powers to protect people. There's literally a scene in this film where he saves a squirrel, and that should tell you how much he cares about living things. I actually really like how this film focuses a lot on Superman's humanity, and how he can feel human emotions like getting overwhelmed by the public eye. Without spoiling the main plot, I feel like they kind of nailed the social aspect of this film. I think they avoid a lot of the trappings that kind of story can really fall into. I think the movie does a good job with showing how a lot of good people can sometimes get a lot of shit thrown at their way for just doing good. How people in higher classes can sometimes flip the script on you and turn you into a villain even though you only mean good intentions. I think they did a good job exploring all that without coming extremely corny. There was one bit that was kind of an eye roll, and if you watch the movie and don't know what I'm talking about, monkey.
Okay.
But outside of that one scene, I actually think they did a pretty good job expressing all of that. And I think Lex was kind of the perfect antagonist for this kind of story. Admittedly, I don't know too much about Lex Luthor. The most I got was his inclusion in Batman vs Superman, where I thought he was insufferable in that film. Here he's just pure evil, and I love that. I love just how much he hates Superman, like literally to the point where every time he's brought up, he goes into an entire spiel on how much he hates this guy. I also just like the fact that it's not just Superman he hates metahumans in general. It's just Superman in particular he despises, and I think that's really funny. They make him such a jerk in this film that you're actively waiting for the moment where it all crumbles down. Every time Lex was on screen, it was a joy, and I think Nicholas Hoult not only understood the assignment, but killed it in literally any scene he was. I was also shocked on how much I actually enjoyed Lois in this film. I really did love her and Clark's relationship, and I think both of them having drastically different beliefs made it really interesting to see those beliefs clash and see them kind of understand each other a bit more as the movie went on. I think they did a really good job in nailing that. I think it's very easy to make a love interest of a superhero project very unlikable. I think to MJ in the Sam Raimi trilogy or Iris from the Flash TV show. And I think they did a good job with trying to make you understand why she feels the way she does and never came off annoying. Bonus points for the fact that she's actually pretty capable in this film. However, I do feel like there's like a lot of side characters, kind of too much if you ask me. Like the Justice Society is really cool to see. I love Mr. Terrific and I'm super happy to see him in live action again, let alone in a non-CW universe. But there's also characters like Jimmy Olsen that just feels like he doesn't get too much screen time at all. Like, no joke, I don't even think him and Clark interact once, and I think that's kind of an issue. Same with Clark's parents. I think in general, I think the film would have benefited from just elaborating a bit more on Clark's past. I get at this point we already know the Superman origin story, but like the Batman also gave us the droppings that we need to understand what was going on in that story. Why can't this film do that? I think in an attempt to try to move away from the origin story, we get a Superman that feels like we're just seeing the second movie, even though there's no first movie. Apparently Gunn had the idea of having chapter cards to kind of split up the new storylines, and honestly I kind of think he kept that because it kind of feels like a mess without them. Although even though I think this film is kind of messy in its execution, I think the fights were really damn good. Every fight with Ultraman felt like I was watching a Dragon Ball Z fight in live action, and I mean that in the best possible way. Even the fights with the other heroes like Mr. Terrific or Guy Gardner, I think they were handled really well. They had their own fighting styles, and with Guy Gardner in particular, I think it was very interesting to see the way he like kind of imagined the Green Lantern stuff. It was cool, you know, it was cool. Overall, I really like Superman. It is very messy in its execution, and I think that does hold this movie back from being an all-time great. But regardless, I had a lot of fun watching this film, and it was kind of really refreshing to see a superhero movie that was just a standalone superhero film, let alone one that isn't afraid to show its comic book roots and actively celebrates it. I just appreciate that despite it all, it was a Superman movie through and through. It didn't felt the need to set up Batman or the Justice League. As how I feel in the DCU after watching this movie, color me impressed. I'm pretty excited to see more. And I do wish Gunn the best of luck because I think if anyone is able to pull it off, he definitely proved that he's the right man for the job with this film. And while I wasn't as glowing on this film as I wanted it to be, I do understand why people like Superman now. Despite having his powers and being one of the strongest beings, he's just a good guy who chooses to do the right thing despite it all. He's a symbol of hope who represents the best in people, who tries to bring the best out of everyone. And honestly, that's really endearing. I legit might check out some Superman stuff after this film because I've been sold on him. I understand why people really like him now. Anyways, it's time to give this movie a rating because I've been yapping for way longer than I wanted to. So I give Superman an 8 out of 10. A very solid first outing for the DCEU. Subscribe or else I'll relentlessly bully you online.